Good morning and welcome to Rising. Happy State of the Union Day. Of the yearly Super Bowl of politics, presidential politics.
It is.
A day we look forward to, question mark, not really. It's a day we end up staying up very late and maybe drinking a little bit too much and getting up early to talk about the next day.
And talking about it tonight. Everybody has to tune in to us. We're going to be covering this thing live.
We are putting in a full day of work today.
So you'll see us up until about 11 o'clock at night talking about it. So make sure you're on the Hill's channels and tuned in. But coming up on Rising, British police have arrested the former UK ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, over new Jeffrey Epstein revelations.
Plus, a federal judge has permanently blocked the DOJ from releasing special counsel Jack Smith's report on his classified documents investigation into President Trump.
And some Democrats are planning to boycott President Trump's State of the Union address tonight and hold counter-programming. I'll dive into that in my lens. But first, Robby, what's on your radar?
I think we're going to fight about this one. Now, why do white liberal Democrats find it so appealing to pretend to be stupid or low IQ? We find plenty of examples of this. And here's another one. Over the weekend, California Governor Gavin Newsom appeared at an event in Atlanta, Georgia, promoting his memoir, Young Man in a Hurry, tried to make common cause with the audience by insulting their intelligence and his own. Take a look at this.
I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you. You know, I'm a 960 SAT guy. and I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech.
Hey people, I'm just like you. I can't read. Seriously, that was his pitch? I think that's deeply, deeply offensive. First of all, I simply don't believe that Gavin Newsom is unintelligent or reads not at all or does really badly on standardized tests. I'm sorry, I just don't. Moreover, I don't believe that the people in the audience are unintelligent either, nor do I believe that mutual mockery is a good strategy to earn their respect, trust, and their vote. Now, to be clear, while it was assumed by a lot of folks on social media that the audience was mostly black, that idea came under scrutiny, and it looks like there were actually plenty of white people in the audience, mostly white people. Nevertheless, the idea of white liberals trying to appeal to black people by dumbing down their rhetoric is a well-worn trope, and an offensive one. As Senator Tim Scott, a proud black Republican, put it, black Americans aren't your low bar. We've built empires, created movements, outworked, out-hustled, outsmarted people like you. Stop using your mediocre academics as a way to patronize communities. It's ridiculous. Yes, white liberal candidates frequently dumb down their own language because they think for some reason this makes them more appealing to black people because of their own biases against people of color, I would say. News Nation's Bashanger Sargon agrees. She called attention to this phenomenon on her show, citing a study which found that conservatives do not do this when they talk to black people.
When white liberals talk to black people, they do something called presenting lower competence. They dumb down their vocabulary using fewer syllables than they do when they talk to white people. And white conservatives don't do this. I remember seeing the study and thinking with horror, and we liberals call conservatives racist? What could be more racist than the patronizing view that black people need to be protected from our big vocabularies?
How telling. Here's what I think is going on. Elite progressives have absorbed the idea that in order to gain power in progressive circles, well, you need to be marginalized, or you need to be oppressed or victimized in some way. Obviously, someone like Gavin Newsom can't honestly claim he's been oppressed. He has had all the advantages that liberals believe flow naturally to a tall, moderately good-looking white man. To overcome this, he must overemphasize some perceived negative qualities, like his intelligence, his dyslexia, allegedly, so that he'll be accepted as a victim in some way. President Biden did this too, overemphasizing his stutter as some kind of general lifelong disability he has worked to overcome makes him worthy of being considered a victim, an oppressed person. When in reality, the reason people were having trouble understanding him is that he had gotten too old and was now having trouble forming complete thoughts. It also goes to show you how victim status can be used as a smokescreen to hide the truth from the American people. Are you questioning somebody's fitness for office? How dare you? You must hate the marginalized. You know, that sort of thing. It's tired and it's tedious. But at least Biden sort of had an impediment of sorts at some point. Gavin Newsom, look, he can obviously read. I don't know what else to tell you. Moreover, I doubt very much that this sort of game is appealing to voters, whether they're white or black or any other color. He's insulting our intelligence in more ways than one.
Look, he's at a book tour talking about he can't read. That doesn't even make
Doesn't
sense.
add up.
I think
Wants you to think he's a man of the... Look, I'm just a stupid, dumb kid, whatever. No, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's lived a fabulous, fantastic, wealthy, privileged life, and that's fine. I'm not looking down on... I don't care. I think this is a flawed idea that we would vote for the most relatable, stupid, low intelligence candidate. No, we want... Trump doesn't portray himself that way. He says, no, I'm smarter than everybody else. That's why I should be president. Good. They should both do that. So
overconfidence.
I don't go for this kind of thing, but that's what he's falsely claiming to be some kind of oppressed
He might
little
be
stupid
dyslexic
person.
for real. That could be real.
Okay.
Why do you believe that? That could be real.
I don't believe it, but I have no evidence.
So he has an awkward.
It's like everyone in Epstein stuff. I just
We'll talk
believe
about
it
that enough
despite
today.
the evidence.
He has this awkward attempt at relatability there. I'm really happy, I want to say, that you didn't go down the rabbit hole that Sean Hannity went down about how racist this was. Because
Yeah, it's not black people.
yeah, when I watched the local news reports, and I'm really, really happy, because then that was going to be our whole argument. That, like,
Well, yeah, I saw the video. Everyone said that before they saw...
I know, just relax, because the mayor of Atlanta
It's because it's that N wokeness account said that he was talking to black people, so everybody assumed that. Then you see the video of the audience, and it's not...
Yeah, it's like in the entrance crowd that was coming in one by one. I mean, they panned them in the local Atlanta news.
I mean, he was talking to a black person.
Yes, as the mayor, but he was saying you all, and then he told the audience, I'm not trying to offend you all. So he was the wider audience. So it's like the conversation.
He was calling him stupid, or saying, if you're stupid, I'm one of you.
About how the people
Morons,
of all
I'm one of
races
you.
feel about Newsom doing that, which is what you made your conversation about. I don't think that's a good relatability tactic. What I think that people need to do more often is try to figure out what's actually authentic, that's a lived experience that they can actually discuss about how it's going to propel us forward. So when you watched Hillary Clinton go on The Breakfast Club, one of the most popular urban radio shows in our country and now internationally, she pulled out some hot sauce talking about, I put this on everything. Like, some black people literally put that on a lot of stuff because they grew up down south with
hot
spices.
Sauce.
Yes, but she does not. And nobody believed that. And it's like these weird attempts at relatability that really turn people that you're pursuing off, because there are a lot of people of all races, of all incomes that get extremely high test scores. The argument for equitability in those circumstances is generally like, oh, if you give them the same training and access to education, they'll perform well, not like dumb the scores, bring the scores down to match and let everybody who doesn't really excel in these subjects be pushed up. That's not what people are arguing. So I think when you do that and say, well, I got a bad score too, it's like, well, the goal was that you got better education, right? So that you could have a good score, not that everybody relates to this low score, right? It's not the test.
That's a pretty bad. I don't even believe he got that score. That's a pretty bad score, isn't it? I never took the I took the ACT.
Well,
so I don't know what the SAT scoring is, but I think that's a pretty bad score.
That's kind of low.
Not to insult you.
Yeah, whatever you got. I remember that was pretty low. I remember like there was like a stressful. What's the highest score? Because I remember there was like a stress about get close to.
Is it 1,400?
I was about to say 1,300. It was like you have to do this.
Yeah, I took the ACT.
It was so long ago for me.
The ACT is 36 is the highest score, I think.
I think Newsom's talked about publicly living with dyslexia, whether you want to discredit the man's account or not. I don't. I accept him at his word there. I think it's relatable to talk about, but in the context and the awkward way that he tried to make it like he's just like everyone else did not land well. And at the very least,
like going on a victim tour
him.
About being, I could do this. I'm left-handed. I'm so victimized because it's really hard to cut with scissors, and it's really annoying when you have to learn to write by hand as a kid because you smear everything you write, and you have to rest your poor, delicate wrist on the spiral notebook rings. Oh no! Oh, the suffering I endure.
A lot of leaders are
Vote
left-handed.
for me.
Obama's left-handed, so you're in good company.
Yeah, a disproportionate number of presidents.
Wow. Okay. Another arrest in Britain over alleged ties to Jeffrey Epstein, just what you wanted to talk about. The details are coming up. We'll be right back. British police have arrested another public figure for his alleged ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Less than a week after they arrested former Prince Andrew, Peter Mandelson, the former UK ambassador to the United States, was arrested at his home in London for alleged misconduct in public office.
Both Mandelson and Andrew are suspected of improperly passing sensitive UK government information to Epstein. According to the Associated Press, the documents the DOJ released in January suggest that Mandelson passed on sensitive and potentially market-moving information to Epstein back in 2009 when Mandelson was a senior minister in the British government. Now, that reportedly includes an internal government report on how the UK could raise money after the 2008 financial crisis, including by selling government assets. Mandelson has been released on bail as of this taping. It's important to note that while he is accused of sharing sensitive information with Epstein, not actually facing any sexual misconduct allegations.
Now, this isn't the first time Mandelson has been in hot water and been forced out of office. He resigned from office twice during Tony Blair's administration for alleged financial or ethical misconduct. But despite the sordid past, Mandelson was appointed to be ambassador to the U.S. at the start of Trump's second term. And just months later, he was fired by Prime Minister Keir Starmer over his alleged ties to Epstein. His appointment nearly cost Starmer his job, as some in Parliament questioned the Prime Minister's judgment. Starmer later acknowledged he made a mistake and apologized to Epstein's victims. Meantime, Mandelson resigned from the House of Lords earlier this month. The arrest of Andrew Mandelson has outraged some lawmakers and advocates in the U.S. who say more should be done to prosecute those that are named in the Epstein files. Take a listen to Khanna, who, along with Thomas Massie, championed the release of the files. He posted this video yesterday on X.
There's no action in America, but action everywhere else in the world. Former Prince Andrew is being investigated and prosecuted in Britain. In Norway, they are investigating and prosecuting a former prime minister. In France, they are investigating and prosecuting government officials and business leaders. But nothing here in the United States of America. I want justice here in the United States of America. It is time for the FBI and the Department of Justice to begin investigations and prosecutions.
But this is, again, he's doing sleight of hand here, because that's fine to prosecute these people for financial impropriety. If they did do that, they should be convicted. They're entitled to a presumption of innocence. They can make their claim. I start to get a little, well, what did he say to? He said that they were going to sell government bond. That doesn't seem like insider information exactly to me, but okay, whatever. I'll hear out the case. But it's not sex crimes. So Khanna there is, again, doing this sleight of hand where he's saying he acts as if everyone else is acting on the information they released and bringing powerful people to justice for sex crimes. No one is being brought to justice for sex crimes because the Epstein, what they released, does not present any new evidence of sex crimes against children being committed. So I don't know what he wants, man. Like, that we can't make up names and prosecute people with no evidence and no accusations and no people to do that. That information is not in the files. You have that information because you're in cahoots with these victims. They're the ones who have the information, so they can say it or shut up about it. What else do you want?
Well,
I know I've been on, this is same for me for the last couple of weeks, but
I
I'm just so
assume
sick
that
of it.
what's happening in the UK is that they got them on some leaked documents, case, and they're going to look into this and prosecute them for that. But while reviewing this, it's like finding a lesser charge to bring somebody in on, and then figuring out all the world that they live and exist in that may have other illegal implications as you dig through these files that were passed on. So I'm assuming, with the timing being so close to the constant release of these Epstein files, that they perhaps are looking for more than what they're telling the public, even though the fact that they took somebody in custody is telling you that they have enough to do so. But I'm assuming they're looking for more than what they've told us that they have gathered.
Why assume that? I think they're just...
Well,
you think there's more? I don't think there's... I mean, that's a kind of an insinuation that there's some sex crimes element.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, if everyone is looking at the exact people, like government communication in regards to Epstein is so odd of timing. Now that Epstein's he passed away how many years ago? Now that they're looking into this right now, in the same time that Epstein is the probably, let's say, top 10 things.
No, they're looking at it now because this information came out in the documents. They didn't have this information.
So that's what I'm saying. If the U.S. and Khanna and Thomas Massie have access to new information of any crime, then they should prosecute people. And in that prosecution, if they find other information connected to these crimes that you're talking about, which have to do with the misconduct of minors, they should also prosecute.
Okay, but our Department of Justice said, when asked about Epstein stuff, said, we've been through the files. We don't see any evidence of sex crimes involving anybody other than Epstein and Maxwell. So there's no one new to prosecute because we've looked through it and we don't have any sex crimes evidence. So that's why we're not doing anything. And we released all the files, and I am forced to agree. I am forced to conclude that they were right about that.
Well, they're not all released, and Thomas Massie and Khanna, and I'm sure millions of Americans don't believe just what the Department of Justice says and take their word for it, mostly because the story has changed multiple times.
So they're taking the words of victims who won't say who those names are?
But it's not a bad thing to listen to victims, so let's just find out.
I not only is it not a bad thing, I'm listening. I'm all ears. I am listening. I'm listening. What
So
are the names?
As we
Give
continue
them
to
to
move
me.
forward and ask questions about Pam Bondi and why so many names were redacted or why the FBI gave it to her in a way that was not easy to sort through for the people that were leading this investigation, these are real questions that lead them to a situation where Khanna is now saying names of people in a lineup as opposed to
Yes, now he's
significant.
accusing random, unrelated people of sex
Right,
crimes.
so now it's becoming a clown show when really there are victims that were looking for answers. And
Ro Khanna has made it a clown show.
But also the Department of Justice has made it a clown show. The FBI has made it a clown show. Pam Bondi has made it a clown show. Yes, and you've also said these things.
Well, Pam Bondi's screw up was over promising in the first place. Was saying I have the client list. I'm reviewing it. We're going to release it. She was wrong or lying or made that up. There is no such list.
But that's the distinction. People say if you're lying, who are you protecting? If you were wrong, why are you so wrong and
But
confident?
She was lying in the wrong. She was not lying in that. She was lying when she said there were names of people who committed sex crimes because that's.
Or
the
she's
answer
lying
that she
now.
wanted. But I think it's so obvious that I can't believe everyone else doesn't see it that she was lying when she said that, not that there's. I mean, where are the names then?
We are slowly.
They saw the unredacted files and they gave us the names, and those names were not people connected to Epstein.
I don't have any stake in this fight, but I
many
know
times
that
do you have to
Thomas
be
Massie
tricked?
and Khanna actually have a real intention of getting to the bottom of as much information as possible in regards to the Epstein files. They made this their whole identity at this point, and so they're going to see this thing through. And I'm not mad at them for doing that. And if they're saying there are people here that have committed crimes similar to the crimes committed by leaders in the UK that we need to look into, I'm sorry, you're getting investigated as part of this broader investigation about Epstein. And through that, if we see something that connects you to minors, that's even worse. And,
But we don't.
Well, we haven't finished these investigations. You don't know if we've seen that with Prince Andrew or former Prince Andrew. We don't know if we're going to see that in any of these instances. But time will tell, right?
It's seeming to me like an investigation into Bigfoot at this point.
Bigfoot? No, because we know there are real
A lot
criminals.
of accusations.
And we know that
lot of
Jeffrey
shady
Epstein is
claims.
convicted of similar crimes. So
Right.
we know those things to be true. So his associates could possibly
Are
be.
just automatically assumed to be.
No, but he was
complicit
getting
in sex
charged in
crimes.
2019 with sex trafficking. So who else was involved in helping
No,
aid and
he got
abetting it?
charged with prostitution.
That
of
was
a
in
minor
2008.
To himself,
In 2019, he was charged,
but not.
but not convicted
Right.
of sex trafficking.
Right.
And so that's what people are trying to get to the bottom to. With whom? You don't sex traffic alone generally.
Well, you can't. I think they were using that as a catch-all for him having abused multiple underage girls. I think.
Well, we're going to see. Up next, President Trump's appointed judge, Aileen Cannon, blocks the release of Jack Smith's report on Trump's classified documents probe. Don't go anywhere.
A federal judge permanently barred the release of special counsel Jack Smith's report on his investigation into President Trump's alleged stockpiling and mishandling of classified documents.
Judge Aileen Cannon granted requests from Trump and two of his former co-defendants in the case, Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, to issue an order prohibiting the release of the second volume of the Smith's report.
In a 15-page ruling issued on Monday, Cannon said, while it's true that former special counsels have released final reports at the conclusion of their work, it appears they've done so either after electing not to bring charges at all or after adjudications of guilt by plea or trial. The court strains to find a situation in which a former special counsel has released a report after initiating criminal charges that did not result in a finding of guilt. In a court filing on Friday, the Justice Department said the illicit product of an unlawful investigation and prosecution belongs in the dustbin of history. The United States will leave it there.
Scott Wilkins, senior counsel at the Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University, said, quote, Judge Cannon's decision to permanently block the release of this extraordinarily significant report is impossible to square with the First Amendment and the common law. There's no legitimate basis for its continued suppression.
The first volume of Smith's final report on Trump's 2020 election interference case and evidence supporting Smith's election-related criminal case against Trump was released last year, shortly before Trump returned to the White House. This seems completely correct to me to not... this is sort of similar to the Epstein's files case, in which I have absolutely changed my mind. Yes, just releasing to the public a report cobbled together by this vindictive prosecutor that could contain wrongful information that has not been acted upon or demonstrated that a court agrees with the finding. It's just in some nebulous, like, we wanted to bring these charges and we've not resolved them and they're not going to be resolved, and just release that to the public. Why? Why misinform people like that? Why do it?
As much as I think that, people want transparency about this case because it was historic and really relevant at the time, the public paid for it. I mean, it's a public case. We had their right to know what was found and why they made a spectacle on all news channels bombarding Mar-a-Lago and got classified documents. Like, people want information about why this dramatic thing happened to the president.
Why the state made a spectacle to get Trump? I think I know why.
People are asking for that information, but I also think it's important to point out that Judge Eileen Cannon was appointed by President Trump, and so Trump has an ally there, and so she made this. Okay, but that's different. He said this is completely illegal, and your tariffs make no sense. Go through Congress.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if you were.
Yeah, but
Trump appointed justices.
A lot of people, but we always also have another conversation about loyalty and how Trump feels he's going to disgrace and dismiss you if you're not loyal to him. And so, for the most part, people are going to do what he says, especially if the pushback might be a little bit from Columbia professors, and then we'll move on. Like he said, it'll be dustbin.
Judges don't feel loyal to Trump in they vote on their ideology.
They're supposed to. Yes, they're supposed to.
On the Supreme Court, the two justices who are most loyal to President Trump are the two conservatives he didn't even appoint them. It's Clarence Thomas and Alito.
Yeah, and they're still
the ones he appointed
they're still pretty cool with Trump, I would say. I mean, based on
right, but it doesn't have to do with loyalty to him.
Either way, Trump kind of demands loyalty from a lot of people. We've seen several instances of that, whether it's judges or not, it's up to them. I do think that, painting the picture of criminality when charges have been dropped could become problematic. I think it's totally different than the Epstein files because we have a criminal at hand and people want to understand how several different governments knew this man was a criminal and allowed him to operate with impunity for so long. So that's totally different, but we're not going to unpack Epstein all over again. But I think in this case, I understand and would agree with this ruling, but I respect the critics that do say
it's not like
that they paid for this investigation and want to know why.
More information about 2020 and January 6th, and all the information you could ever want is out there. We had a whole impeachment proceeding. We had congressional inquiries. We have litigated the events of this time period pretty exhaustively.
And I have to stay consistent. In that time, I said this is way too much. You're going to rally up Trump's base. He's going to win again. And maybe I'm a fortune teller because here we are.
Yeah.
Democrats seem to have a different strategy in mind for this year's State of the Union address. I'll look into that next in my lens.
Welcome back to Rising. What's in your lens today, Lindsey?
We're talking about the State of the Union, baby. Let's get to it. Democrats are walking into the State of the Union with a real dilemma. How do you oppose Donald Trump without making him the center of your resistance? Now, last year, the images were unforgettable. Members holding signs, lawmakers walking out mid-speech. You remember Al Green standing, pointing his cane towards the president, heckling him, and ultimately being escorted out. It was dramatic. It was viral. It also became the whole story. This year, Democratic leadership wants something different. What Hakeem Jeffries is calling, quote, silent defiance. Fewer theatrics, more discipline, but unity, that's still a work in progress. Some Democrats aren't even going at all. Here's what Senator Ruben Gallego said.
Right now, this country is hurting. Whether it's what's happening in Minnesota, whether it's our families that are just trying to make every dollar stretch longer, whether it's veterans trying to make sure that their benefits aren't being cut by this administration. There's a lot of work to be done. And it's not going to happen in that chamber for 2 hours when the president's just going to be using, that bully pulpit as a way to just, push further and further his agenda.
Now, Connecticut Representative Jim Himes is also skipping it, saying, quote, I've never missed the State of the Union, but I'm sick of Trump's lies, boasts, and attacks on our democracy. This Tuesday, I'll be at the People's State of the Union with Move On and Midas Touch, standing up for healthcare, affordability, and decency. Many Democrats are leading counter-programming on the National Mall, the People's State of the Union, hosted by Katie Fain and Joy Reid, organized by Midas Touch and Move On, Civic Action. Others will attend the State of the Swamp, featuring lawmakers like Ron Wyden, Eric Swalwell, alongside celebrities like Robert De Niro and Don Lemon. Meanwhile, inside the chamber, some members are going to sit quietly. Others, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, might skip it altogether. And a few could test leadership's restraint or request for restraint. Here's the bigger question. When everyone is resisting in their own varied ways, is the message amplified or diluted? Democrats are fresh off reassuring election wins and are trying to mobilize every part of their coalition ahead of the midterms. That means progressives, moderates, suburban voters, young activists, all of it. But when the strategy splinters, the optics can look like too many cooks in the kitchen. Which brings us to the official response. Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger will deliver it. She's a moderate who won her race by the largest margin for a Democrat in Virginia in 6 decades. That choice is not accidental. It suggests perhaps that party leaders may believe the path forward isn't louder resistance, it may be broader appeal. Not viral moments, but suburban margins. Not confrontation, but contrast. The Democratic Party is still deciding whether its future runs through its loudest voices or its most electable ones. This State of the Union won't just test their opposition to Trump, it will test whether they can present a clear, unified vision of what comes next. So when I saw 20 different events, I started getting stressed out. I was like, okay, this is happening at the Capitol because we're going to be following it all, but it's like a lot. It's like, what's the plan, guys? Because this is the exact problem. You're getting an alley-oop in a basketball game because Trump has dropped the ball with the economy. He got a huge loss on tariffs, teeing him up for this speech right tonight. And you guys are running on an affordability message. What's the plan? And they can't decide whether they want to just go in the AOC direction, Mamdani direction, skip the whole thing, meet him where he's at with the disrespect like Newsom is doing, or put somebody like Abigail Spanberger forward and say, we're going to be calm, cool, and collected. And I try to talk to people out there that are Democratic voters about what they like. I've been asking people that I know vote Democrat recently. And a lot of people don't want the theatrics. They really want somebody middle. As much as I'm entertained by Newsom, they're like, I just want somebody who's just going to bring us back to a little bit of normalcy.
Abigail Spanberger, moderate, you say?
Yes, that's what a lot of people have described her as.
Well, that is what a lot of people have described.
And you're just going to point to
agree
one
with
instance
that.
of what she did with what? Go ahead. Say the one thing that she did that makes her not moderate, please.
May I?
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
Yes, immediately told the police to stop cooperating with immigration enforcement whatsoever and in all circumstances. Typical blue state governance. Not going to do any immigration enforcement whatsoever. The previous orders had been not to, arrest every Latino-looking person on sight, but there are violent criminals who are also legal immigrants being held. They'll alert the national authorities. Seems like a perfectly sane and moderate policy to me. It was the policy of her predecessor, immediately undone by this so-called moderate Abigail Spanberger.
So when you see all the variety of options out there, luckily the Democrats have not very obviously locked into one strategy. Does that make you happy to see? I mean, does it make you happy in a way that you think that benefits the Republicans?
Not based on what the Democratic Party is doing, or Trump, or I don't care. These things are like very performative episodes that matter to us arch politico people, and many Americans will watch, and then we'll comment on the effectiveness of the zingers, of the delivery, and then we'll argue about policy as we do, and then we'll go on with our lives. It's kind of I don't think.
But a lot of people that do the rebuttals
for anyone.
A lot of people that do their rebuttals end up extremely relevant, if you notice, in like the next presidency, like Marco Rubio.
Yeah, it seems to me for the most part, people who've done the rebuttals are the people who the party expects to be a big deal, and then it often doesn't work out for them that way.
So Marco Rubio got lucky in that regard.
Yeah, I think he's the
exception. that kitchen.
Katie Britt.
Yeah, that was not
She's
good.
Republicans themselves have turned on her. Republicans don't like her anymore. They think she's too moderate for whatever state she's in, Alabama. She's in a southern, deeply red state where you could have a very conservative, and she's only a little conservative.
My concern.
That's what Republicans are telling me.
My concern for people that are looking for
Alabama. Where's Katie Britt? Someone tell me. Alabama. I got it right. Cool. Go ahead.
My concern for people that are looking for a more moderate, civil-minded, like somebody who's just nice and neat, works across the aisle, is like, that's again like that when they go low, we go high situation. Like President Trump is exactly where he's at. So don't we need somebody to meet him right there as you fight this battle? Even though you're not going to go against President Trump, you're going against a coalition of people, for the most part, that have supported him almost blindly.
If you want to find a moderate Democratic person, someone who compromises with Republicans and works across the aisles, we have basically exactly one of those people. His name is John Fetterman, and Democrats hate him.
Can't be.
They loathe him. Democratic partisans, hate and loathe him. Independents quite like him. Republicans quite like him. He's gotten more popular in Pennsylvania over time, but Democratic primary activist type people despise him. But he is exactly as he is the moderate Democrat.
Okay, how many Republicans are in Congress that y'all have called rhinos over and over again because they vote one way or the other?
Well,
so John Fetterman is the exact example of a rhino
compromising
Democrat. You know what I mean? Like a dino. You know, he's the same thing. He literally just goes against for the biggest legislation. He'll be like on the other side of the aisle, and it's like, well, you were part of like the 1 or 2 votes we needed to make this thing go, and you say no just because. Why? Maybe you're trying to represent the people of your community, which is a noble thing to do, but also you're not in lockstep with your party.
Of all the swing states, so he has to be extremely. He's in a state that Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris in. So if he's a Dem who wants to survive there, he's got to be pretty down the middle, or even maybe a little right of center.
Well, maybe
it's savvy politics.
Since he's still accepted as a Democrat, maybe Republicans should take a clue about how to accept people that are a little bit like Marjorie Taylor Greene or somebody who doesn't agree with current
they accept
policy.
people like, Susan Collins is no Republican, MAGA conservatives ideal of a Republican, but we know, the Republicans know that's the best that you're going to do in the state of Maine. And so there's nobody primarying her, thank goodness. And if they did, Donald Trump would call them up and tell them to go jump off a bridge immediately, because the only way to hold that seat is for Susan Collins to hold it. So there's a little bit of strategery. Not always. They could very well cost themselves in the Southwest, seems to be where Republican primary voters are determined to, shoot themselves in the foot.
Definitely.
The DNC is holding its report that delves into what caused Kamala Harris's loss in 2024, but details of it are still leaking out. Stay with us for that.
An exclusive story from Axios says that officials within the Democratic Party believe that the Biden administration's stance on the war in Gaza may have cost Kamala Harris a significant amount of support in the 2024 election. This goes back to this extensive research conducted by the DNC for an autopsy report to determine what went wrong for the party.
That report was supposed to be released publicly, but late last year, the committee made the controversial decision to keep it private for some reason. Now, Axios has learned some of the details of the report. Their article reads, in part, activists from the Institute for Middle East Understanding Policy Project told the DNC that the Biden-Harris administration's support for Israel was a factor in the party's losses because it drained support from some young people and also progressives. Axios independently verified that Democratic officials conducting the autopsy believed the issues harmed the party's standing with some voters.
Now, during her brief stint as the Democratic nominee, Harris took more of a split approach to the topic. She repeatedly affirmed her support for Israel's right to defend itself, but she also called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. She stopped short of calling for an arms embargo on Israel, which became a point of contention for many on the left.
While on a tour stop for her recently published book, Harris reflected on the moment, saying, "We should have done more as an administration." Wow. More specifically, she suggested she and Biden should have been more upfront with their criticisms of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah, you think? Online, the report Axios led to a lot of debate. Journalist Astrid Herndon says, biggest thing Dems could do for their current position, in my opinion, is have true moral convictions. They love to wait till the polls tell them something is confirmed. Okay, and by that time it's too late. You should try believing in something, anything, the first time, even at the point of risk. And Anthony Zenkis, a professor at Columbia University, says, word of warning, run Harris or another pro-Israel genocide denier, and we will be having the same conversation 3 years from now.
But there were also some skeptics, such as writer Corey Walker, who says, quote, the folks quoted here are from the Institute for Middle East Understanding, which is an anti-Israel organization. Most polls show that Gaza was low priority for voters. I'm skeptical of reports which show was a major player in Harris's loss. Now, there's been a growing number of calls from the left demanding that the DNC release its autopsy report in full. But as of now, there's no indication that the committee plans to do so.
Release the report. This one I'm in favor of.
Release the
releasing.
files.
We should release this one because this is not, criminal. This is just the party's
The party
opinion
paid
on what
for
went
information
wrong.
about what went wrong. I don't
It's
see
not
the benefit of
criminal what we're doing.
no. I don't see the benefit of them ever releasing it unless you're going to come up with strategy internally and then just share the strategy with the wider.
Well, there's no reason to commission it, decide we're not going to follow its advice, and never publish it. So, okay. I don't care one way or the other. It seems obvious to me that Kamala Harris's views on Gaza and Israel did hurt her. Michigan is one of the two
that was
must-win
huge.
states. It has I'm from Michigan, significant Arab Muslim population that voted for Jill Stein over her, having to do with the administration's position on Gaza. And it's not like, Trump was savvy here because he was kind of ambiguous about what he kept saying, like, well, they got to finish the job, but they got to finish it quick because this is bad, sort of be all things to all people on the issue without being super specific. Whereas Kamala was tied to the specific things the Biden administration was doing, which was whatever the Israeli government wanted with no pushback. She could have pushed back more. She didn't. She didn't draw any daylight between her and Obama. I keep saying
Biden.
Obama these days. Biden. She didn't, when asked by The View what she would do differently, she could have said that. She didn't say anything. She didn't have a great answer about it. 60 Minutes. So here we are.
I think this is such a point of contention because the Democratic Party is probably likely still very deeply divided on what the next steps are or how to respond to this issue. There's like a whole moderate faction of the party and then a progressive faction of the party that have two distinct different ideas about how this should have been handled. I think Kamala was in a really precarious situation because, as I mentioned before, she's literally still the vice president under Biden. He has already made decisions, and if they were that harmful in her mind, that would be your opportunity as the second in charge to speak up adamantly about not doing these things. And so since that was not done, how can you defend? Either way, damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if you say you would have done something differently, why are you sitting back while not watching things happen differently? And if you say you would do it exactly the same, well, that was the answer that kind of tanked her on The View. I don't think that that's enough there, even though it was probably one of the biggest stories of the last decade about what was happening and the way that we understood news and saw daily updates outside of what mainstream media told us. I still think when people think about back to the election and when we look at the poll results about why people that weren't even Trump supporters as far as personality and behavior, but just about policies, thought that Trump was a better choice than Kamala. A lot of people in those polls specifically referenced that they needed more money and they thought that he would fix the economy. So when you talk about the tide that turned in some of those swing states, I don't know that all of them outside of Michigan had to do with the relationship with Israel and Gaza and the U.S.'s relationship to it. I think it was significant, but when you talk about winning,
a decisive factor, but it was
on the list, and people
mattered.
pick their top issues. A lot of people were still talking about the economy. So, I just think like there was a lot that could have been done differently.
Remember, we were being bombarded on social media at the time with images, video of people being blown to pieces. It was, I didn't want to see them. It was awful.
Yeah.
Constantly. This was really the first major war where the U.S. is not involved with ground forces, but we pay for, we're giving money for their defense, and we're seeing the fruits of our military the widespread death of civilians, of children, and that was hard to watch and not say, wow, is there nothing else we can do? We have to be totally involved in this. This is going to be on us. And it went on and on and on, even after, so many Hamas fighters killed. Look, it's a difficult, complicated situation. At the time, we would argue about it on Rising. I was trying to represent the other view of why Israel was attacked by terrorists, has to defend itself, hostages are being held, that kind of thing. I'm not saying it's not complicated, but I think it hurt to just see the images of people being blown apart that we're paying for.
And then to see her recently on her book tour say things like Biden gave a blank check to Israel when she sat right there.
He did.
No, I know, but she's now has all this retrospection that's so beautiful to see about how she would run a new campaign. And it's like, people wanted to know.
No idea what was going on.
Well, people wanted to know like what she actually felt. Like what remember that whole thing about the disconnect? If that was a moment where she would have said, here's how I truly, genuinely, here's how I feel versus what the standard of our country and our relationship to Israel has been versus what I think is the right thing to do. Here's how I feel. Maybe that would have been that moment of connection where people are like, okay, she's also struggling with how to respond to this.
Well, yes, and I said this at the time. I suspected that she might have been just as pro the Israeli government as Biden, and then more so if she'd been in charge. I don't know why she would have necessarily been harsher on them. I don't know why anyone would think that. She has close ties with the Israeli government as well. Her husband is Jewish. She's participated in events with the Israeli delegations in the it was not my assumption that her policy would be any different unless she was going to come out and say it was different.
Right.
So I don't know why anyone would assume that, which is fine. But then just say that. Say, no, we're standing by Israel. This is important. This is what we believe. It speaks to what came up in this report we're never going to see. Just tell us what you actually believe.
Right.
Like, don't leave it ambiguous.
People want authenticity for sure.
Up next, the Daily Mail is getting dragged deservedly for calling certain tourists in Mexico spoiled amid the cartel chaos in the country. We'll be right back after this.
News organization Daily Mail got slammed online for calling tourists at luxury resorts in Mexico, quote, spoiled after violence erupted in the country over the killing of a major cartel leader.
In a post on X, the Mail wrote as their headline, quote, spoiled tourists complain about being stuck at luxury resorts amid cartel violence in Mexico. The Mail's headline in the website read it a little differently. Tourists complain about being stuck at luxury resorts amid cartel violence in Mexico. The article further said, American tourists visiting Puerto Vallarta have started to complain online about being stuck at luxury resorts as cartel violence ripped through the area. The article also says, quote, influencers took to social media to bemoan how they were stuck in the tourist hotspot. The Daily Mail's X post drew criticism from many on social media. Laura Loomer wrote on X, she wrote this, is this a real headline? I guess you're now spoiled if you work your explicit off to go on vacation and then you are forced to shelter in your hotel because of cartel terrorists. Another X user named Not the Bee, that's referring to Babylon Bee, said, somebody wrote this, somebody edited it, somebody published it, somebody posted it to social media. All four of those people should be fired.
In a military raid on Sunday, Mexico's most wanted cartel leader, El Mencho, was killed. El Mencho's criminal organization, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, responded to their boss's death by creating massive violence in the country, killing at least 62 people. They also blocked over 250 roads across 20 states and set vehicles on fire.
The Mexican embassy in Washington called the military action a massive win. The White House confirmed that the U.S. did provide intelligence in support of the operation to capture the cartel leader, and they applauded Mexico's army for the swift action. I am with everyone online who is outraged at the Daily Mail. What a preposterous... The X version was worse. I guess the other headline is fine, although to emphasize the complaining is weird. People... tourists, whoever, are justified to complain about cartel violence erupting. What is there supposed to be like, oh, well, if you don't want to be subjected to violence, don't go to Mexico? Is that what the Daily Mail's point is? No, I'm sorry. You should be able to go to Mexico or anywhere else. Every person on earth has the right to live free of violence. Yes, you're right. If you go to one of the undiscovered native tribes in the Brazilian rainforest and try to convert them or something and they spear you, do we say, well, that's kind of your own fault? Yes, this is not exactly that case. You should be able to go to Puerto Vallarta and not be subjected to cartel violence. And so should the people living there, should not be subjected to it either. This law and order must be restored. These violent murderers and anarchist thugs should be dealt with. So that's neither here nor there. What a preposterous headline from a evil, gossip obsessed.
I just realized you hate the Daily Mail
Rag that all people of taste ignore.
Look, this is not a minor inconvenience. So that headline is terrible. I couldn't even believe it. I yelled it out loud when we first started the show this morning. Like, wait, did they really say this? I think I watched one of the influencers on TikTok that was explaining they're at this hotel, and people were in the comments saying they didn't feel bad for her. But one of the things she said is, I miss my baby. And it was like, why are you getting mad that she wants to go home to see her baby? She's in a dire circumstance and they're not 100% sure she will see her baby. If they saw that video of people fleeing out of the airport, there were people getting hurt, almost trampled, like not understanding what chaos was happening. Mm-hmm. There are cartel leaders that are enraged on the, on the loose, trying to get revenge. And at any time you could be a target.
People.
So that's
their murderous leader was killed, and now they're like, well, we have to make everyone feel afraid. It's terrorism.
And to not know when you're able to leave. I mean, a vacation could quickly turn into a nightmare. Mm-hmm. If you're somewhere celebrating and enjoying the nice sun, and then you realize that you're not able to leave because you might die, that changes the whole vacation. I don't know. I prefer to be anywhere else. I prefer to ride the subway back and forth in D.C. endlessly than to not know I'm going to make it home because I'm in a,
I can't even.
I prefer to sleep on the subway.
Our subway is pretty. The metro.
The metro. I call it the subway. I prefer to sleep on the New York subway.
The New York
I just want to make
subway.
sure that I can get to my kid when I.
Ours is safe and clean, but unreliable. New York's is not safe and definitely not clean, but more reliable. I guess you can't have all three.
The slightest bit of snow.
Not all three.
It's going to be a delay.
Yes. Well, that does it for us on Rising Live. Thanks so much for watching, and look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way later today. Also, check out the Hill's website, channel. We're going to be talking for someone at some point about State of the Union stuff. See you then. Bye.